देखिए, वीर माधो सिंह भंडारी उत्तराखंड टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी जो 2005 में उत्तरांचल टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी के रूप में स्थापित हुई थी। इसका उद्देश्य पूरे उत्तराखंड राज्य में तकनीकी एवं व्यावसायिक शिक्षा का प्रचार प्रसार के दृष्टिगत इसको किया गया था। तो इस प्रदेश के अंदर जो तकनीकी शिक्षा थी उसको प्रदेश भर के छात्रों के लिए और जो आसपास के छात्र थे उन सब तक पहुंचाने के लिए इस विश्वविद्यालय ने अपनी जिम्मेदारी निभाना शुरू किया। आज इस विश्वविद्यालय को 18 साल पूरे हो चुके हैं। 27 जनवरी 2005 को इसकी स्थापना हुई थी और इस विश्वविद्यालय के पास जितनी भी भारत की नियामक संस्थाएं हैं उनके स्तर से जो पाठ्यक्रम नियमित होते हैं, जैसे ऑल इंडिया काउंसिल फॉर टेक्निकल एजुकेशन है, फार्मेसी काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया है, काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर है और बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया है, इनके पाठ्यक्रमों को संचालन करने की जिम्मेदारी इस विश्वविद्यालय की है। आज की जो हमारी एजुकेशन सिस्टम है उसमें क्लासरूम में बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है। वो चैलेंज ये है कि हम बच्चों के अंदर जो उनकी इंक्लूसिवनेस है उसको हम यूटिलाइज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। जो हमारी कंटेंट अवेलेबिलिटी है, जो हमारा ई कंटेंट है, जो हमारी इंटरनेट की जो व्यवस्था है, उसके अंतर्गत हमने पूरे विश्व की जितनी नॉलेज है उसको हमने इंटरनेट पर उपलब्ध करा दिया। तो कुछ पेड है, कुछ अनपेड है, लेकिन अवेलेबल सब कुछ है। तो इस प्रकार से जो अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ नॉलेज है, जो क्यूरियोसिटी जिसके पीछे होती थी, वो कहीं ना कहीं हम उसको पहले ही किल कर देते हैं। देखिए, आज के समय में जो इंजीनियरिंग की एजुकेशन है वो पूरे देश में एक बड़ी चैलेंज के दौर से गुजर रही है। इस समय जो जो छात्रों का रुझान है वो रोजगार को लेकर के, एम्प्लॉयमेंट को लेकर के इतना ज़्यादा हो गया है कि जो हमारी इंजीनियरिंग का जो बेसिक पर्पस था, जो इस आज हमारा जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट के वीर माधो सिंह भंडारी उत्तराखंड टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी जो 2005 में उत्तरांचल टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी के रूप में स्थापित हुई थी, इसका के लिए ये बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हमारे पास अच्छे सिविल इंजीनियर भी हों जो कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की रिक्वायरमेंट्स को पूरा कर सकें, अच्छे इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर भी हों जो कि एनर्जी सेक्टर की और जो एनर्जी की रिक्वायरमेंट है उसको मीट आउट कर सकें, अच्छे मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर भी चाहिए जो कि हमारे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेसेस हैं उनको उत्कृष्ट कर सकें और जो भी निर्माण होने हैं, जो इंजीनियरिंग एप्लीकेशंस हैं, उनके बारे में जो अवस्थापना सुविधाएं हैं, जो आधारभूत इक्विपमेंट की रिक्वायरमेंट है, इस प्रकार की आवश्यकताओं को पूरा कर सकें। और हमें जो उत्कृष्ट मस्तिष्क हैं उनको हमें इंजीनियरिंग की बाकी विधाओं में भी उसी अनुपात में उपलब्ध कराना होगा, अन्यथा इस सभ्यता को सस्टेनेबल बनाने में, इस सिविलाइजेशन को सस्टेनेबल रखने में एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती होगी। देखिए, जो इंजीनियरिंग की जो पढ़ाई है उस पढ़ाई के दो कंपोनेंट्स हैं। एक कंपोनेंट हो गया क्लासरूम का और एक हो गया लैबोरेटरी का। और इन सब के बीच जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण कंपोनेंट है वो है एक जो हमारा इकोसिस्टम है, यानी कि जो टीचर्स हैं, जो एम्बियंस है, जो उनका एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, इन सब के अंदर इन सारी चीज़ों को लेकर के बड़ी गंभीरता होनी चाहिए कि ये बहुत ही एक ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी है हम सब के पास कि हम अपनी जो यंगर जनरेशन है उसको इतना कैपेबल बना सकते हैं कि वो आगे की जो भी चुनौतियां हैं उनको अपने स्तर से उनको हैंडल कर सकें और अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन दे सकें। तो जो बच्चों के अंदर जो हम कैपेबिलिटी डालने की बात करते हैं उसमें संसाधन बहुत बड़ी अड़चन नहीं है। संसाधन की आवश्यकता जरूर है, लेकिन वो ऐसा नहीं है कि बिना संसाधन नहीं है तो हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते। पहले अगर हम सेल्फ लर्निंग मोड में बच्चे को मोटिवेट कर सकें उसमें जाने के लिए, तो वो बहुत सारी चीज़ों को अपने स्तर से भी सीख लेगा। देखिए, परीक्षा के दौरान जो हमारी विशेष करके जो हमारा उत्तराखंड है, उस उत्तराखंड राज्य में भौगोलिक परिस्थिति ऐसी है कि संस्थाओं को एक दूसरे तक पहुंचने में रोड ट्रैवल काफ़ी टाइम कंज्यूमिंग होता है। तो इसके अंतर्गत विश्वविद्यालय द्वारा एक डिजिटाइजेशन की प्रक्रिया परीक्षा संचालन में स्थापित की गई है और विश्वविद्यालय ने प्रश्न पत्रों के मुद्रण की कार्यवाही बंद कर दी है। विश्वविद्यालय डिजिटल मोड में प्रश्न पत्रों को विश्वविद्यालय से सभी संस्थाओं जो परीक्षा केंद्र होते हैं वहाँ तक प्रेषित करता है। ये डिजिटली एन्क्रिप्टेड फॉर्म में क्वेश्चन पेपर का ट्रांसमिशन एक एफिलिएटिंग यूनिवर्सिटी के रूप में शायद इस विश्वविद्यालय का एक अभूतपूर्व प्रयास है। इसके द्वारा हमारी संस्थाओं को अपने परीक्षा केंद्र पर ही रहते हुए प्रश्न पत्र उनके सेंटर पर उपलब्ध हो जाता है। परीक्षा की नियति समय से पहले, थोड़ी देर पहले उसको उनका पासवर्ड दे दिया जाता है और वो पेपर को अपने यहाँ डाउनलोड करके प्रिंट कर लेते हैं। और इसी के साथ में जो परीक्षा केंद्र है, उसकी पूरी निगरानी करने के लिए सभी परीक्षा कक्षों में सीसीटीवी कैमरे की व्यवस्था की गई है और उसको अभी हम आगामी सत्रों से उसको हम आईपी पे कैप्चर करके विश्वविद्यालय में भी जो कंट्रोल रूम बनाएंगे उसमें उसकी निगरानी करने की व्यवस्था की जा रही है। ये सारा प्रयास इस बात को लेकर के है कि छात्र छात्राओं के अंदर इस बात का एहसास होना चाहिए कि परीक्षा एक बहुत ही पवित्र प्रक्रिया है। विश्वविद्यालय से संबद्ध जितनी भी संस्थाएं हैं, इनमें जो प्लेसमेंट की एक्टिविटी है, उस प्लेसमेंट की एक्टिविटी को बढ़ाने के लिए सभी संस्थाओं के स्तर से भी प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं और विश्वविद्यालय में भी एक ट्रेनिंग एंड प्लेसमेंट सेल का गठन किया गया है और इस प्रकार का एक मोबाइल ऐप भी विश्वविद्यालय द्वारा तैयार करके प्रचालित किया गया है। इस मोबाइल ऐप के द्वारा जो हमारे इंटर्नशिप हैं, उनकी ये जो इंडस्ट्रीज़ हैं जो अपॉर्चुनिटी देती हैं, उनको उस पर पॉपुलेट किए जाने का प्रावधान है और साथ साथ में जितने हमारे डायरेक्टर्स हैं और ट्रेनिंग प्लेसमेंट ऑफिसर्स हैं, इन सभी को इसके अंदर इंटीग्रेट कर दिया गया है और बहुत जल्दी ही इस ऐप के माध्यम से जो हमारे छात्र छात्राएं हैं उनको विभिन्न विषयों में जो इंटर्नशिप की हैं अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ मिलने लगेंगी। इसी में प्लेसमेंट के साथ साथ में उच्च शिक्षा के अवसर भी विश्वविद्यालय को उपलब्ध कराने चाहिए और विश्वविद्यालय ने अपने पाठ्यक्रम में जो नई शिक्षा नीति है उसके अनुरूप कुछ परिवर्तन भी किए हैं, जिसमें कि बीटेक के बाद बच्चों को सीधे 1 साल की अवधि में एमटेक की डिग्री लेने के लिए एक प्रावधान भी किया गया है और ये सत्र 2022-23 से ही इसको प्रारंभ किया गया है और जो बच्चे हमारे उच्च शिक्षा में जाना चाहते हैं उनको विश्वविद्यालय में जो संस्थाएं हैं उनमें एमटेक के लिए भी अवसर उपलब्ध हो सकेंगे। सो प्लेसमेंट, इंटर्नशिप और हायर एजुकेशन, तीनों वर्टिकल्स पे यूनिवर्सिटी के इनिशिएटिव्स उस पर तैयारी चल रही है और जल्दी ही इसके परिणाम दिखने लगेंगे।
We are glad to welcome you again to all dignitaries, colleagues, and students. Today's session is on project management. Effective project management means setting a clear project plan and using the right tools to monitor progress. Effective management refers to the extent to which managers achieve their targets with the assistance of resources. In this interactive session, Dr. Vorasa will discuss about effective project management, a necessary skill for all professions. The project management skills are critical in deploying initiatives, managing capital projects, managing change, and executing continuous improvement initiatives. Now, I would like to request again Dr. Sandeep Kumar Chaudhary sir to read the profile of Dr. Vohra.
Thank you, Bajaj sir. It is my prime privilege and honored to getting an opportunity to read the profile of our distinguished speaker, and honored again that Professor Bora sir is very much, I can say, punctual and very much active in reference to conduct the session. So this, the today's takeaway that in the beginning of the session that I take from your session, sir, that last four sessions are very much interactive. In that we learn the leadership excellence on first session that delivered by Professor Bora on 24th April. Second session delivered by Sir on 27th April, effective decision making. Third session, the Sir has delivered a very important need nowadays, that is effective time management on 1st May 2023. Fourth session is, again, I say it is need of time and need of hours of our young generation, that is effective teamwork. The session is delivered on 3rd May 2023. Before giving an introduction to our today's sessions, first I'll introduce our speaker, a renowned and well-known academician, Professor Dr. Manu Bora sir. He is chairman and president of Business Excellence Inc., a global quality management consulting firm. He has over 48 years of leadership experience and has guided Fortune 500 companies with Valgrade Performance Excellence Assessment. For over 30 years, as an adjunct professor, he teaches operation management course at business school globally. He has contributed at over 680 educational institutes worldwide. He is a sought after speaker on business excellence and quality management topic with over 1,270 presentations globally in 36 countries across 5 continents and published over 75 scholarly articles. He has published over 50 blog posts on quality management. In 2013, he gave two TEDx talk, TEDx chapter IIT BHU Banaras and TEDx IIT Chicago. Since 2013, he has delivered soft skill and quality management topic using technology to over 680 colleges, university globally, benefiting over 1.2 million students, faculties, and professionals. In 2016, he delivered a project management for organizational excellence, a joint course approved by the MHRD Government of India at his alma mater, IIT in 2016. He was appointed as Fulbright Specialist by the US Department of State and completed his first Fulbright Specialist project at IIT in March 2018. About the academic background of Professor Bora, he has BTech honors from IIT BHU in chemical engineering in 1968, and he did his MS in 1970 and PhD in 1975 in chemical engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago, and the and an MBA in 1985 with marketing management from Keller Graduate School of Management in Chicago. As the founder, director, and president of Blind Foundation for India, he and his team has raised over 6 millions to help 6 million US dollars to help over 2 million visually impaired adult and children in India. That is a remarkable effort made by his team. He received NRI of the Year award in 2018 in philanthropy from Times Now and ICICI Bank in Mumbai. He served as AICT NEP 2020 Implementation Panel Committee in 2020. Many of achievements are in name of our renowned and well-known speaker, Professor Dr. Bora sir. Before starting the session, I'll give a short highlight for today's session, which Professor Wajahat sir already given us the today's session about. It is based on a very important topic, that is how we can do the project management. This topic is somehow, I feel it is very much important for the BTech fourth year students and all the students those who are pursuing to their final year course. In the project management system, one can learn that how they can plan their future projects, even the task they are willing or maybe going to get in their after completion of their course. So, not taking much of the time, I request our speaker, Dr. Manu Bora sir, to start the session. Thank you.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sandeep Kumarji, for a very kind introduction. Welcome to all the dignitaries, including the Registrar, Dr. Satyendra Singh ji, all the esteemed faculty, directors, principals, faculties, and students who have joined, and we have a global audience here. So, very good evening, good afternoon, good morning at people from various places. So today's topic is highly relevant because in the first 4 sessions, we had a background information about leadership, decision making, time management, and teamwork. Once we have mastered those skills, it allows us to do a great project, bring the project to completion within budget, within schedule, as well as meeting all the performance requirements. And I'm very honored to teach for the 15th year at Northwestern University, one of the top university in the Chicago area, at the School of Professional Studies, my project management course. For last 4 years, it's been online. Prior to that, it was an on-site program. And as Professor Sandeep Kumarji mentioned, I've delivered the project management course as a part of the Gyan program from MHRD, now Ministry of Education, way back in 2016. So keep in mind that we do projects all the time, professionally and personally. So if you in good discipline from today's presentation, it will serve all of us well. So with that brief intro, let me begin the presentation, and we will make this also interactive. And please do not open your microphone throughout the presentation. We'll take the questions through the chat, and we'll keep working through the presentation. There is a lot of good information coming through, and there are about 2-3 breakpoints for interaction and then final Q&A. So the roadmap is Essentially, we will review the teamwork feedback from the last session and quickly run through where the project management gets its application, go back to fundamental, define a project, what are the three major goals of any project, and define project management, why it is important and what it can do for us. A little bit about rates of project failures and what causes it. There is a new concept I want to bring in, aggregate project plans, and then we'll take a journey in project management using wonderful article from Tom Peters, the Wow Project. Then quickly run through some of the project management tools, and then some best practices about managing the budget, focusing on the project communication. And project means something unknown we are working on. That means risk is inherent part of the project. A lot of good resources, summary, and as usual, this time today being a very important topic, I'll request all of you to write down 2 key takeaways from the session and at least share one of them on the chat box. So very quickly, we had excellent feedback from the last session, 100% for the overall quality of the session, learning new skills, again 100%, and applicability of the new skills, another 100%. So we got very good feedback, and thank you very much for providing the good feedback. The YouTube recording of all 4 sessions, links are shown here, and it's also at the Uttarakhand Technical University website. And to summarize the last session, the difference between success and failure is a great team. So it's up to us to build a great team, have a lot of collaboration and cooperation, and deliver the best results. And that's the purpose of the teamwork, which is essential and fundamental for doing a great project. Now, a recap. We, as a technical person, engineers, do the projects throughout the life. And if you are on the other side, as in the management or the business side, you manage those projects. And one needs to have proficiency in these subjects: leadership, decision-making, time management, teamwork, including problem solving, which will allow you to do great project management, including the risk management. And then you apply that to manage your fundamental project, that is managing your career throughout the life. Very quickly, in the 21st century, 3 critical skills. We saw 2 of them, teamwork and problem solving, on 3rd of May. Today we'll focus on the 3rd critical skill for the 21st century, the project management. So it is very important to understand the project management has many, many applications. So it can help in deploying your strategic plan for the organization at the highest level. It is very useful in managing transformation and change. And by the way, National Education Policy 2020 is a transformational project, and it's started from 2020. By 2035, with all the stipulation, it needs to be completed by all higher education institute, K through 12 school system, etc. So it's nothing short of a giant transformation project. And that means people who are deploying NEP 2020, implementing it, need to have fundamental understanding of project management and risk management. So within an organization, if you want to charter the capital projects, how will you monitor the progress of it, where the resources are getting used, and are you getting the value for the money you have spent? To conduct your research in the academic and applied field, project management is a good discipline to have. Even if you are doing your master's or PhD thesis work, that's a project, because you have never done this before. First time activity is a project. Any improvement you want to do for the organization that will require project. Software development, every time you do something new, that's a project by itself. Enterprise resource planning, that's the single database capturing all the information for the organization, the customer, the processes, employees, finance, etc. at a fingertip. Developing a new product is a project. Constructions of roads and bridges, building aircraft and ships, solving organizational problem, whether it's a customer related, finance, operations, personnel, etc. So as you see, project management is backbone of anything and everything we do in life, both professionally and personally. So change management has three pillars for success. One is the leadership. Leaders create and lead the change. Second, talent management, employees implement the change. And third is the project management, which is a backbone, provides the foundation to carry out your change or a transformation. So those of you are looking at deploying NEP 2020 to effectively implement at their institute, they need to keep these three dimensions in mind. It will require tremendous leadership to lead the transformation, engage faculty, administration, and all the staff and students and parents community into the successful deployment of NEP 2020, including the industry people, and have the project management discipline to ensure that the project is well defined. There's a charter, activities are happening, it's being reviewed regularly, and progress is monitored and assured for the successful implementation of NEP 2020. So what's a project? It's a temporary organized effort to produce a unique product, service, or a plan. And it's interesting to remember it has a single definable purpose with the performance, cost, and schedule requirement. Fortunately, only three goals you need to focus on: performance, cost, and schedule. Is unique, one-time activity. It's temporary with a limited time frame. It cuts across organization lines, so it's a horizontal slice of the work, not vertical. It's unfamiliar territory you are working in. Which means there is uncertainty, which requires managing the risk from the beginning to the end. Something at stake when you do a project. Now, here are kindly stay muted, please. And this is one discipline we all need to have. Do not open the microphone kindly. Thank you. Great example of successful projects. Here is the pyramid, well over 4,500 years ago on the west bank of River Nile. Many pyramids have been built and they are still standing. I had a great opportunity to visit Egypt about 4 times and saw the pyramids. Here is the Colosseum in Rome. This is Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Turkey. Started out as a church, then a mosque, again a church, and currently it's a mosque. Taj Mahal, all of us can relate to, left center, middle of the center. This is the Baha'i house of worship here in city of Evanston, where the Northwestern University is located. The first house of Baha'i built almost 30 years in making. Then space shuttle, space station, bullet train, and Mount Rushmore. This is in state of South Dakota, where 4 presidents' heads were carved during the Depression years to give people something to work and earn some money to bring food on the table. So these are monuments and latest technological advances which uses project management with a great success. So as I mentioned, project has three simple goals to manage: the performance, cost, and schedule. And you have to hit all three of them on the target as originally planned. And that is what the project management discipline is all about. First, define those three goals, plan accordingly, have the sponsor sign off on the project charter, and do not deviate from those three goals and achieve three of them as originally planned. Then your project is successful. Now let's define the benefits of project management. First, project management is to integrate resources and tasks to achieve organizational goals. And here are the lots of great advantages of using the project management. It will avoid the excessive workload for few people. And I'm sure all of you can resonate when you are on a team working on a project. One or two people will carry extraordinary amount of load and finish it. Others are sort of costing along, and that's not an effective team. It will avoid cost overruns because you are managing the cost on a regular basis by reviews, building the right skill and expertise for the project. There are no strained relationship because work is divided according to their strengths and ability to volunteer for it, and it's equally distributed, so everybody has a piece of action and one person is not doing 90% of the work. It also prevents the scope creep. So in project management, later we will discuss the importance of project charter. Once you have a charter well defined by the help of the members of the team and the project team leader, you get it signed off with the sponsor, and that freezes the scope, what is inside the project and what is not, what will not be worked on. So whatever is inside the project, that's a scope. It will avoid duplication of work because it is well organized and well distributed task and subtask, and it allows you to make better use of the limited resources. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and let's take some quick questions and have some interaction of whatever we learned so far. So anybody, any questions, come in and put it in the chat box so we can work through it. And let's make good use of time because there is a lot of good information I want to cover. So please come in if you have a question or a comment. Anyone? Okay. If you don't have it now, you can hold the questions. We'll come back and let me continue with the presentation. And we'll definitely cover all the questions you may have. So let's focus a little bit about the rate of project failures. So here I'm giving you one example, software as a project, what kind of failures data are available. So this is coming from UK, 1990, 2000, and 2009, so almost every 10 years. First set of data, and with the three metrics. Success means all three targets, the performance, cost, and schedule were achieved as originally planned. Failed means project has to be abandoned because you could not continue no matter how much money you put it in. And challenge means 1, 2, or 3 of those originally stated goals had to be restated in order to complete the project. So eye-opening data, software projects, success 1994, 1 out of 6 only. 20 years forward, 15 years forward, 1 out of 3 success. Rest either failed or challenge. Cost of software project failure in the same time frame, 2009 data. World over, $70 trillion GDP, and cost of IT failures alone was 6.2 trillion. That means it's almost 8% of the cost of GDP was failure due to IT projects. So IT software is one of the most ubiquitous thing you can think of, because computer chip is everywhere in all the hardware, all the appliances, all the planes, ships, everything running around, trains, everything runs on computer. And this is one of the many, many projects which can go wrong: collapse of the roads, bridges, and so many projects and program can fail. And each one of them, when they fail, they essentially creates the waste in the society. So here is the statistics and some glaring example of project failures. So research shows that world over 25 to 30% of the projects are successful, rest fail. And in the government area, in the government domain, more failure because the oversight is not as good as the private industry and the private sector. So the first big example is Ford Motor Company wanted to have a automated purchasing system, put in $400 million. They had to cut it off because they realized it will never be completed, no matter how much money you pump in. In UK, the Inland Revenue System, by an accident, returned $3.45 billion as a tax credit to taxpayers as an overpayment. Of course, they had to collect that money back at a cost. The Denver International Airport automated baggage system spent $250 million to set up the new baggage automated baggage system. It never worked, and then they had to cut it off. Bigger one is the US Department of Defense's $6 billion kinetic energy interceptor program. In 2009, after many reviews, they determined it was not workable, so they had to put to rest. And at the India scene, we know the big ones: Commonwealth Games project scandal by Suresh Kamladi in 2010. He was put behind bar. And Ganga Action Plan project since '86. Huge amount of money has been given. Middlemen eat away the funds, and Ganga is still as dirty as before. So the cleanup projects are never working, and this is a shame that Mother Ganga is so polluted by pumping in industrial waste all along the path, starting from the Devbhumi all the way to where it merges on the with the Brahmaputra and near Bengal area. So as you saw these project failures, there is a beautiful article I wanted to point it out. So those of you who have interest in project management should look up this article from Business Horizons. Title is 12 Ways to Fail in Project Without Really Trying. So it's a contrarian view, opposite of what you need to do to be successful. So when you don't focus on project environment and don't take care of stakeholders, most likely you will fail. You are using new technology to the market very quickly without doing any trial or testing. You don't have a fallback options, only one way, no plan B. When problem happens, shoot the one most visible rather than thorough analysis and get to the root of it. New ideas starve to death from inertia. That means project manager, project leader is not listening to the input of the members. You don't conduct feasibility studies, never admit project is a failure. And this is the tendency we all have. When you are on a project, you put the resources, things are not working, you continue to put more and more into it because that becomes almost like your baby. So you want to keep on going, and that is not good. You have to cut it off at a given point in time. You overmanage the project, that is micromanagement. never conduct post-failure reviews, which must be done with every project, whether success or a failure. Understand the project trade-offs, very important, and crucial project decisions are made within fighting, and the project leader is a weak leader. If you assign a project to a weak leader, it's definitely going to fail. And when I teach project management courses, this becomes one of the article they study. And for the Gyan program, they had to work on 4 different projects specific to India scene: Delhi Metro, mission to the Mars, the Mangalyaan, and Ganga cleanup project, etc. Using this article as a backbone there to write up a project report. Now, I want to share with you the current state of affair in the project management. What do we see here in the picture is lots of pipes lying around, so the graveyard of a pipeline. Substitute each of the pipe with a project. And this is the state of affair in almost all organizations where there are many, many projects on the docket. Some have started, limited resources. You start, then you wait and pull up those critical resources to start a new project. So many things are happening, but it's not coordinated. It's happening in a random fashion, and there is no focus. So the idea is, in order to do the project management well, the great organization have a PMO, Project Management Office, which is an independent function reporting directly to the MD or CMD, and they are a line function, and they essentially overlook all the projects at the beginning of the year. Then they do the prioritization, impact to the customer, impact to the organization, and feasibility. That is time and resources to work on the projects, multiply those 3 items, rank those projects according to the highest to the lowest, and those projects which sit at the top of the list are the only one funded with the right resources. Once those projects are complete, next set of projects are taken up, and resources are rightfully used. That's an organized approach. Once you do that, success is bound to come. So this approach, the aggregate project plan, you can do a Google search with this article by Willwright and Clark with the topic, the aggregate project plan, Harvard Business Review. The story was, it was a new product development company, 33 projects for a small organization. None of them were succeeding because, as I mentioned, they start, the critical resource needed to work on a project was limited, so they put some resource, and then they pull that resource and put to another project, get started, again it's stalled. So using this approach where you can use 5 different areas like project, platform project, breakthrough project, and R&D projects, and any combination of these 4 platforms, they cut it down from 33 to 11 projects in 5 categories. And then putting the right resources, they were able to execute those projects. And those projects were delivered, and customers were happy, and they got more work to do based on successful delivery of the projects. Now, so to understand different compartment, we can take an automotive example. Derivative project is more like changing the color of the paint on the car. Platform projects is the next generic. After 3, 4, 5 years, the new model will come out. Breakthrough project is the electric car like Tesla, or hybrid car which Toyota and Honda started. R&D projects is the 3-dimensional TV, where some time ago 3D TV things was started, You need to have a special set of goggles to look at those programs, but the delivery of those programs is very limited, so it's stalled. And the combination of the two platform is the FedEx, which moves packages around the world, and a company called Kinko's, which is an office supply company with the stores everywhere in different towns with multiple locations. So instead of FedEx having multiple warehouses to receive the packages, they allow Kinko's to collect the packages for them. FedEx van will come around 3-4 times a day, pick up the packages from the Kinko store, and that way they've saved on the warehouses they have to build. And Kinko's benefit that when people come to drop off the package, they pick up some office supplies, pen, pencil, duplication of the copies to be made, etc. So both organizations are thriving because of the multiple partnership they have developed. So this is how one need to have a focused approach to project management, that is aggregate project plan. Now, we saw earlier that 25 to 30% of the projects are successful, rest fail. If you want to improve your chances all the way to 100%, another great article from MIT Sloan Management Review, where the project leaders needs to overcome 5 crises of size, essentially around working the fundamentals of the project management. So the first crisis is ensuring that you are working around the facts. A lot of time, senior leaders will come up with a project, their brainchild, let's do and let's do this or let's do that, without really understanding what it will take to get the project done. So no facts, no project. Secondly, the project sponsor assigned to the project should provide full support through the life of the project. Third, the team must be faithful to the project management process. That means they have to go through each and every step, forming this team, essentially establishing the norm for the team, working in a collaborative fashion, using the work breakdown structure to decompose the project, bring it down to the task and subtask level, assignment in a proper way to the people using their strengths and their willingness to volunteer for the task or a subtask. The team continue to do the assessment of the progress and a risk with a weekly review status review meeting, 1 hour per week, and all team members equally putting their weight and contributing for the success of the team. So when you manage these 5 crises of silence, your project will get 100% success if it is done properly. Now we are going to look at the history of project management. So I have to stop sharing here and go to the other area where it's aligned and ready to play.
Something were calling me. A voice from the past, like some sort of inherited memory.
So as we saw, there are tremendous amount of work done over the ages to get the projects going, and those projects are monument still standing in different forms. Okay, a couple more slides, and now we will have a good interaction to talk about what we have learned and carry on with the next item. So I want to bring in the concept of the WOW project by Tom Peters. So let's focus on that new concept here. Now, I would request all of you to do a quick Google search when you are back at the university, fastcompany.com. Title of the article is The WOW Project by Tom Peters. So Tom Peters was a consultant with the McKinsey and Company. Then he became a partner, then gave it up and became an independent consultant. He's one of the highly sought after management consultant and commands a huge amount of money. Now the article, it's 8 pages, and it should be a must for each and every person, whether you are a student, faculty, or professionals, to understand how do you take a mundane project and make it a wow project to bring the great value for the organization. 4 components: finding and creating a project, selling the project, that is showing the value of the project, executing the project, that is after planning and preparation is done, you roll up the sleeve and start executing the project. And when the project is complete, one time activity, you have to hand it off. So it moves from the project to program. Ultimately, many programs becomes a portfolio, and a series of portfolios ramp it up at the enterprise level. So 4 simple items, and let's see what Tom Peters has to say about them. First item, finding and creating your wow project. So you need to have your personal passion. Why does it matter? Secondly, it's a any project you work on is a great opportunity to add value, and it should become the golden opportunity to learn. 3M company, which started with this yellow sticky paper, which was not the original use it was intended for. It was an accident. They made it, and it started getting its wide application. So they have a simple motto at 3M: make a little, try a little, sell a little. And that's how you can continue to refine your approximation of the project and move it towards the wow project. In terms of selling your project, you need to sell it right from the beginning to the end of the project. You need to have a 2 minute elevator spiel, that is, what's your project, who is involved, and what benefits it can bring in to the organization. Create the community of grassroots support for your project, and get the endorsers at the grassroots community level and get their support. Executing your wow project, series of rapid prototypes. So this is very important thing to remember in project management. Fail sooner, fail fast to succeed sooner. In other words, you do small steps, work on a task or a subtask, and quickly see whether it's working or not. If fails, learn from the failure and keep moving. So fail faster to succeed sooner at the end. You need to think, act, live, sleep, eat, and breathe your timeline. So schedule is paramount. Keep it fun, and that is very important to work on a project. It should be fun. Don't keep talking too much. And in the status review also, it should be highly focused rather than keep talking. It should just be a quick review of where you are using the color coding. If the task assigned to you with the goal, if you are on target, green, you are likely to miss it, yellow, and you have already missed the target, red. Only status get discussed. Resources and other things are planned after the status meeting between the person who is handling it and the sponsor, and they continue to work before the next status meeting and only talk about the key items at the status rather than talk too much and no action follows. Don't stop selling the value proposition of your project, and don't lose your emotion. This is the hardest thing to do. Once you are done completion of the project, you have to hand it off. So it becomes day-to-day basis. You need to celebrate your accomplishments and look for new opportunity, do the self-evaluation, what worked well, what did not work well, and what lessons do you learn from it. And it will open the next chapter for the upcoming project. So with that, let me stop and let's have some interaction for sure. And let's start with you, Sandeep Kumarji. Any comments, thoughts on material we have covered so far? Okay, we have few items in the chat box. So one is from Sudeepa Samanta. Sometimes we can't cover our project. What is the effective way to complete the project within the duration? So it requires a proper planning with the help of your team members. And so first, if you are the project lead, project manager, you need to bring in the right people with the different skill sets, and those who have a collaborative mindset, bring them on the project, assemble the team, do the proper communication of designing and planning for the project, allocate the right resources for the right task and subtask, and continue to work with the team to see whether the work is happening or not. And if it is not, find out what is causing them to stall, remove the obstacles. Sometimes you may need to get additional resource from the sponsor. So the project lead, the project manager have a lot of work to do. Durga, please remain muted at the moment. I'm reading through the chat right now. Surendra question, nowadays when you go for a project, every owner and director this project on a lower cost from the government. This is the main issue, and it in this days to the competition. So this is again something to think about. If you always take a project with the lowest cost, and if you have not done proper analysis of what it will take to complete the project, and if you have done the underbidding, you are more likely to not complete the project within the budget or on in time. So you have to make a realistic assessment of what is the amount of effort, resources will be needed with number of people you have on the team, and try to be as realistic as possible. And also, if you are successful, your track record will speak for itself when you apply for a new project from the government, because they are also looking for completion, that is the performance, not just the lowest cost. Because lowest cost means something when the project is not delivered, that entire cost is sunk. Okay, any additional comment? How can we manage and complete our project in a lower cost? Yeah, so there are two ways of doing it. One is don't keep padding the project with too much extra fat, then you will not get the project approved. So you will not get that work to do. If you come in too low, that means you are going to cut the corner and won't be able to meet the performance requirements. So all of these things, you need to have proper facts, what the budget or the cost looks like for completing a successful project within the time frame. Do have proper backup data to show it to the sponsor and the people from whom you are trying to get the project, that this is the our analysis, these are the facts, this is what it will take to complete the project, and this is what we have in terms of the team which will manage to get it done with a great performance at the end. Any additional comments, please put it in the chat. It's much easier to go through the chat box. Always remember, plan, do, check, and act. Continuous evaluation of your project schedule, completion of task and subtask, removing the blockages, and ensuring that you are keeping track of the budget being spent under the cost is within the planning stage, and it's flowing along the way as you originally planned rather than you are overspending. And if you overspend, then at the end there won't be money left to do the rest of the project. Okay, any additional comments, questions? And I'm sure this is not a rocket science. All of us do the project. It's just a matter of putting all the pieces in the right way so that ultimately your project is a great success. And that's what we are looking for. I'll keep moving and we'll hold the questions for the next set of interactions coming up. So in the effective team, we looked at this issue. So as I mentioned at my Northwestern class, currently I have 12 students, graduate level, Master of Science in Regulatory Compliance. So we get people mid to senior level from food, pharmaceutical, medical device companies in the area, and now it's online. So I have a student from Mali in West Africa, medical doctor working in the hospital, part of the program and part of the course for the project management joining online. So for a given team, generally there should be 5 to 6 members per team. One person should get a role of the project leadership. The role of the leader is to keep the project on track, and it's his or her overall responsibility to keep the team together. One project communicator communicates the internal progress of the team and communicates only person who communicates with the sponsor, project researcher, one or two people who do background search about the project, find out any technical issues which will come in the way for the project, etc., and find the right resource to tackle those issues. And two editors, one for the project report and one for creating slides out of that project report for sharing with the project sponsor. So when teams are chartered, you don't have to have 30, 40 members on the team, because then nothing will get done. One or two people will do all the work, rest are all sitting there, and they are there for the name's sake, but no contribution will be made by them. Focus teams with a specific role assigned to them is the right way to approach any project. Now, as we discuss status meetings, once a week, 1 hour meeting, you need to capture it in a simple meeting minute summary. Date meeting was held, time, place, attendees, key discussion using bullet form, key decisions in the bullet form, and ensure that there is an action item list created for each of those meetings, action item number in a running sequence, date it was opened, what is exactly well-defined action item, who owns it, and what is the projected date of completion. Granted, the actual completion may vary depending on the difficulty of the action item. No action item for a given meeting, that means that meeting was not worthwhile. Something, people came together, had some chit chat, drank some coffee, tea, and had some food, and then dispersed. So those are ineffective meetings. Another good discipline to have is, if the meeting is important, do the evaluation at the end. It takes only 3 to 5 minutes. ask people to write down things work well today in the bullet, did not work well in the meeting for that day in the bullet, and things you need to change for the subsequent meetings in the bullet. The person who is the scribe taking notes can do the summarization of all the evaluation form of 5 or 6 members who are in the meeting, and I have a consolidated list shared with the team members. And in the item 3, based on the feedback received, pick 1 or 2 items which you are going to implement for the subsequent meetings so that your meetings could be more effective going forward. And this is the discipline I think we all need to think about and put it in practice, which will serve you well to manage your time effectively and bring the results for the projects in a better way. A few items about the project life cycle. So this is one scenario where you start with a slow start, build a quick momentum in the middle part, and then you have a slow finish to the end. So beginning to the end, and it can take any shape. It could be very fast start, slow down in the middle, and then complete it and bring it to the conclusion. I'm sure some of you may have seen this slide about humor in project management. There are total 10 graphics. We go from the top left to the bottom right. So top left is how the customer explained what the contraption they wanted. Bottom right is what actually the customer really needed. So sometimes customers do not have exact idea of what they are looking for. So in that case, the journey of project management is about understanding the customer requirement and doing the right things to build the product or a service which will meet the requirements of the customer throughout the life of the project. So that's more like a golden thread you need to pick up. Customer requirements, keep it that one in mind and in the center when you work on the project. Second graphics, top left, how the project leader understood it. So you see between the difference between the two. So the train has left the station and you are not on the train. That's where the project has derailed already. Third, in from the top left, how the engineer designed it. So the humor continues. Fourth, how the programmer wrote it. Fifth, how the sales executive described it. Definitely, they want to collect good money. Bottom left, how the project was documented. There is nothing to look for. Next, how operation installed it. Next, how the customer was billed for a royal contraption for which they had not signed up. Next, how the help desk supported it. There was nothing much to support or help. And ultimately, what customer really needed. So what is the lesson from these series of humorous nuggets here? And that is, unless we understand the customer requirement upfront and continue to remain in sync with the customer while working on the project, if we take our eyes off of those requirements or the golden thread, we are not going to be successful in delivering a great project for which customer will come back and pay you more to do additional projects. So the project management journey, first thing one need to do is create a project charter where the entire project gets defined and created on paper. Then you continue the project plan by putting more into the taking the project charter forward. Then you work as a team, which will continue on the planning aspect and do the execution, doing the project, fully execute the project, and closing out the project at the end when the project is complete. So, what's the importance of a project charter? So, think of it if you are going to build a house or a building, you need to go to an architect and have a blueprint drawn out, which will specify exactly what the building will contain. So if it is a residence, 1 story, 2 story, how many uh, square feet of house, square meter of house, number of bedrooms, number of restrooms, how much is the kitchen area, living room, family room, sunroom, etc., and where will the electrical go. All the details are in the blueprint. Once the blueprint is created by the architect, then several people with their specialty will come in and start putting the foundation, build the walls, put the roof up, and then do interior work and then finish off the whole complete house or a building. And that's what each of the projects should have a blueprint to plan and take action. It allows to have fact-based decision making. It will identify all the stakeholders. It focuses on the vision and mission of the project. It requires the objectives, deliverables, and the milestones well defined. It identifies and prioritizes risks for the project. There's a communication strategy built in for your project. And once the project charter is completed, and I'll show you in next 2 slides the sample of it, sign up on the charter by the project manager and the project sponsor, it freezes the scope of the project, what will be worked upon and what will not be inside the project. And always insist on a project charter for every project. And this is where, when you see the projects getting done, a lot of time there is a weakness. Either the project charter is not there or not properly prepared. Things are missing. So here is an example of the project charter, which I use in my classes for the students to work in the team and complete the project charter. Uh, General project information in the front part, the project team, who is the manager, and team members with the specific roles, who are the stakeholders, and the scope statement, project purpose, business justification with the vision and mission, objectives in business terms, deliverables, scope, what is the item which will be covered in the project, project milestones, specific milestone, including status reports and the final project and presentation. And in general, there are 4 stages of any project: inception, planning, construction, and delivery. For each of those items, there will be sub-items you need to think about with a specific date, going from beginning to the end of the project, known risk, and then prioritize them: high, medium, low, constraints, if there are any, external organization dependencies, communication strategy, who is going to do what, when, how. There is a table there in item 5, and then final sign off. By having a project charter, every time you have put in place series of items which will be worked upon by the team to continue the work on the project. Let's take some simple project management tools, and then we'll stop and have a little more interaction. So work breakdown structure. The metaphor is you want to eat an elephant. How do you do it? One chunk at a time. Now, of course, I'm a vegetarian. Most of you may be vegetarian. But that's how the project gets done. One at the highest level, that's a level 1. You start decomposing it to level 2, level 3, level 4. When you are at the level 4, you are doing number of subtasks identified, and each of those subtasks should be able to be assigned to an individual. And by the way, an individual may have more than one subtask depending on their expertise, skills, and knowledge. So you start working on task and subtask, and you start building it up to level 4 to level 3 to level 2, and then ultimately, when you integrate everything, your level 1 project gets completed. So when you start on a given project, identify your work breakdown structure. Gantt chart, and this is a schedule where all the major tasks are on the on the y-axis and the time in weeks in the x-axis. And here we are looking for a bank to locate a new branch. So locate new facility, interview staff, hire and train staff, select and order furniture, remodel and install phones, furniture received and set up and move in and start up. So as you saw with the horizontal bars, some activities start and then they stop. And then those activity like second and third are dependent. So when second activity completes, third activity starts. So this is how you go from the beginning to the end. And here you can use Microsoft Project Professional software where you put in the task and amount of weeks needed to complete that task. That software will give you the Gantt chart by hitting a button. It also allows you to allocate resources, monitor the performance, generate status reports, Gantt chart, uh, the performance evaluation and review, a technique chart, network diagrams, and all those. It's a great software. For my classes, I require my students to have that software to create the Gantt chart and resource allocation, etc. So critical path method, this is where I think we'll have a little interaction. So I would like you to see, first of all, let me define a critical path. Here we have a series of activities from the left to right. Station 11, 5, 4, and 8. Activities happen and you come to station 6. And ultimately you want to end up at station 7. So going from left to right, the longest path it takes from the beginning to the end is your critical path. Now, why critical path is important? Because it has something to do with your schedule. Items on the critical path, if not completed, that means your critical path has elongated or you are having a delay. Your overall schedule will be blown off. You will not meet your originally planned schedule. That means your project is compromised, or ultimately, if you can't manage it, it will be failed project. So just see it very carefully. 11 to 6 takes 1 day to complete. 5 to 6, 4 to 6, and 8 to 6 takes 1 week to complete each one of them. And once you are at 6, it takes another week to complete and come to number 7. So I will stop sharing, and if anyone has figured out what is the critical path, and hint is there are multiple critical paths. And second question is, what is the length of the critical path in weeks? So those two simple questions, number of critical paths and the length of the critical path. Let me stop sharing and see if anybody has figured it out. They can put it in the chat box. And there's a question sitting there. I'll take care of that, Kanchan Kumari ji. Anyone figured out how many critical paths and the length of the critical path? I'll wait for about 30 seconds. If anybody has figured it out, you can put it in the chat. And as I mentioned, there are multiple critical paths. Anyone? Okay, hearing none, let me go back. And this is an so the question was how many critical paths are on that diagram and what's the length of the critical path? That was my question. Let me come back to the diagram and explain the answer. Okay, so the answer is there are three critical paths: 5, 6, and 7, 4, 6, and 7, 8, 6, and 7. 11 to 6 is not on a critical path. Why? It takes only one day to go from 11 to 6. You can do it on the day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 or 7 and still manage to come here. But each one of these items requires 1 week to complete. So there are three critical paths, and the length of the critical path is 1 week plus 1 week, 2 weeks. So when you are planning your project, you need to identify how many critical paths are there and what's the length of the critical path, and then have a very sharp focus on making sure that your critical path is followed and there are no further delays on that path. Because if you get delayed on the critical path, your project is delayed and your schedule will not be met. I hope all of you got that idea. Now let's talk a little bit about the budget control. Now this is very similar to what we do at Homefront. At the beginning of the month, we know how much money is going to be coming in for the month, and we also know how much expenses we have to handle for that month. If we have imbalance, so money coming in is overspent on a monthly basis, then you have to start dipping into your savings. So on a project, what happens is short duration, say 6 months project, you're divided the total budget into 6 monthly installments. At the end of the first month, when you are reviewing how much you have spent and what you achieved, if you have overspent for that month, and if the value is not there, that means you missed the target. And if you continue to overspend by the end of fourth month, you will have almost spent everything and there is nothing left to work on for the last 2 months. So budget control is a discipline you need to have built in during monthly review. Ensure that whatever is planned as a cost is maintained and you are not overrunning all the time. If you overrun, you need to take a correction for the next month to come back within the limit and within the planned area of the cost. And sometimes there are unforeseen events, the technical block comes, you may have to spend some extra, then you adjust the overall thing because most of the time you will not get additional funds. Only thing is, if it is a critical project, then the sponsor will keep in their back pocket additional resources. And if it is highly critical projects, up to 50%, they will have a management budget set aside without telling the team. And they may release that in terms of money, resources, or delay the timeline and adjust the performance depending on what stage of the project you are in. So that corrective action part is important. Managing it on a regular basis is very important. Now, here is a new concept called earned value management. This comes from the US Department of Defense. And this is where the contractor used to overcharge the government almost like in the early 70s, $100 to $150 for a simple nut or a bolt. And the government started getting wiser, and the US government Department of Defense put together this earned value management concept. So to keep it simple, there are 4 quarters in a given year. Planned work is 25 units in each of those 4 quarters. Actual cost varies for the quarter 22, 20, 25, 25. And last item, the earned value of completed work is also uniform, 20 units each. So pictorially, when you look at it, there is a best quarter, quarter two, where earned value is 20 divided by actual cost 20, the ratio is 1. Next best quarter is quarter one, 20 value earned, 22 is the cost, and 3 and 4 are the worst because you are only getting 20 by spending 25 units. So best quarter was quarter number 2, followed by quarter number 1, and then quarter 3 and 4 follow. This way, government keeps track of all the subcontractors. If they don't deliver the value, the money is not given to them and only given in proportion to the what value they have added. So let's stop here, so at least a question. So we'll begin with that. So making project, this is from Professor Kanchan Kumari. Making project will be long process. Do we need to make team outside of university? It depends on the nature of the project. If you need the people to work on the areas where you need expertise from outside the university, by all means. If you have people within the university, depending on the nature of the project, then you only keep the people from the university itself. Okay, there are a number of items on the critical path which we covered already. Any additional items or thoughts? I'm sure all of you do projects, so please have some ideas or thoughts, what is working for you, which others can learn from as well. And I would like to learn things which is working for you on your projects. Any more items? Please come in. Very quiet today. Maybe it's Monday. Okay, back to the presentation as I want to cover the other material as we go, and hopefully we'll have some good interaction as we move forward. So this is to reiterate the importance of communication in project management. We saw this one in the leadership area. We brought it up again for the team. So communication is the lifeblood of a given project. And here the communication importance is shown that success comes from 5% from the academic credential, 15% from the professional experiences, but 80% from the communication skills. You have to fill in the blank, your leadership, decision making, time management, teamwork, problem solving, project management, risk management, etc. All of that count in the communication soft skills, basically. Communication has to be two-way, and particularly it's very critical on a given project where a person has asked for some input. Sender sends a message, receiver gets it, but unless it's acknowledged, the loop is not closed, and sender has no idea whether you received it and is it appropriate. Modes of communication, each one of them are important on a project as well as throughout the life: verbal, written, and presentation. In verbal, non-verbal also counts. They need to be very clear, concise, effective, and impactful and meaningful, and each one of them will get better with more and more practice. Communication basics. There should be a purpose, message, media, and effectiveness. So when you are communicating with somebody, there should be a purpose, and it should be very specific purpose for which people will send you the input. You can have a message either written or through the intranet or verbal, etc. You can use any media, and then effectiveness is very important. That is, one need to have a feedback about the input received from the receiver, and that feedback has to be relevant, timely, and useful. Then person can work on the feedback received and do a better communication next time. Now, in communication, we need to remember that the listening skills are extremely important and critical to develop as we go. So, to be good in communication, we need to develop the good listening skills. And this is where we need to pay attention to the person who is communicating and first understand the message before responding. So, normally, what we do when we are listening to somebody or something, we are always formulating a response or a rebuttal, and we miss out on what the items being discussed. That's not the good way to listen. And if you are in doubt, ask the other person for clarity. And this is where we are building in the interactions, and we learn from asking questions so others' doubt can be clarified as well. And there should be a meaningful dialogue for action. So here is the simple guideline. How do you become an active listener? Look at the speaker directly. Put aside your distracting thoughts. Don't mentally prepare for a rebuttal. Avoid being distracted by side conversation and listen to the speaker's body language. So, if you are a good listener, you should be able to repeat what others have said practically word for word. Listening and taking notes will serve you very well. And I learned this discipline specifically when I changed my area of work from chemical engineering to telecommunication by joining AT&T Bell Labs. My supervisor, since I was new in telecom, I had to do a lot of training, and then I got a lot of new learnings by attending the meetings where about 8 to 10 people will be discussing some new topics where applications of the new technology was coming along. And my supervisor asked me to take the meeting notes. I'll write down what I learned and what I listened to from each of the persons in the meeting and share it with the supervisor. He made some minor corrections and we sent it off within a day. So by writing down what you listen to, it gives you better retention and it captures what happened at the meeting. So in the project towards the end, you can use this template, the lessons learned. It takes only for each one of the member who are on the project team can write down their own and then have a brainstorming to consolidate what worked well for the entire team in the project, what did not work well in the project in the bullet form. And last item will be things you will change for future projects based on item 2. So 3 follows from 2. This is a very good discipline to have where you are writing down all the lessons learned, which becomes a part of the project report, and that becomes a historical record. And by the way, all the consulting companies, that is McKinsey, Accenture, Booz Allen Hamilton, and Boston Consulting Group, etc., they all do projects at various levels in the organization. Once the project is complete, they write it up as a project report, and they have a giant knowledge management database for the company where all of these things gets archived. And when a new project comes, they look into the archives and see if any similar activity was done, what worked well, what did not work well. So they plan the new project accordingly, put the right people in, and achieve more success for the clients and get mega bucks for it. Okay, I'll take the last item, the risk management in project management, and then we'll break for interaction with the question and answer at the end. So, risk is defined and it comes from the finance side, insurance industry, where the risk management concept originated. Risk is defined as a product of likelihood, time loss. In other words, something will go wrong, that's the likelihood, and actual impact or a loss because something went wrong. And multiplier of the two is the risk. So a lot of time risk management is considered in the aggregate. So for example, if you're invested in the stocks, various different stocks, your portfolio, what you are doing is you are diversifying among different industries, small, medium, large stocks, some bonds, some liquid cash, some metal, commodity, etc. So you are trying to spread the risk. So if you put everything in one basket, if it goes down, everything gets wiped out at one time. When a bank makes a loan, they are taking a risk that you will be able to pay it back for your car, for your apartment, if you are doing a business, for your business, etc. Insurance policy, health insurance, life insurance, there is a actuary table which projects based on your age how much lifespan you have, and based on that they decide how much premium to charge. Lotteries, if you are either doing gambling or lotteries, there is a small number of people who will benefit on behalf of all the people who have invested their money. So in gambling in general, the house, the original company keeps about 15% profit, 85% is given out as a payout to very few people who hit the jackpot. So managing risk. So this is what you can do when you are defining and planning your project at upfront. In the charter template, you show number of risk. Identify 5 to 6 things which as a member of the team during the brainstorming you can think of what can go wrong on a given project. And then again use the brainstorming technique to identify which is the highest possible risk, medium risk, and a low risk. And then you can do further refinement using the risk metrics as well. Now, the risk related to the event can have the undesirable and unintended consequences like delays, increased cost, and inability to meet your technical specs. Good risk management, as we discussed, identify as many risks as possible, prioritize them, arrange them from highest to lowest, and for the risks which are high or extremely high risk, have a contingency plan for mitigation of the risk. That means if those risks become material, you have an action plan which you can start rolling it out. So, to understand the impact of risk, think of it this way: if you are working or staying in a high rise building, during the year, few times there will be unannounced fire drill where all of a sudden a alarm will sound. You are required to get out of the building as quickly as you can without taking any material with you. Safely, you want to get out of the building without using the elevator because during the disaster, fire, etc., the electricity will be off and elevator will not work. So you have to get out of the building as fast as you can. There'll be a foreman standing with a stopwatch to see how long it took for the last person to get from the building out. By doing these drills few times a year, everybody has in their subconscious mind a essentially a habit of getting out when the alarm sounds. You want to leave as quickly as you can to save your life. That's what exactly is it required for managing your project. How many risks are there? Everybody should be aware about it. And for items which are high or extremely high risk, you need to have a contingency plan to address it. So you can use a 3 by 3 risk matrix on the likelihood when something is likely to go wrong. You can use a 3 point scale. Likely means 3, unlikely, highly unlikely, 3 to 1 on the y-axis. Consequences or the impact 1 to 3, slightly harmful, harmful, or extremely harmful. And when you multiply those items like likely and extremely harmful, you are sitting at the top right quadrant, extreme risk. And depending on where the numbers fall based on the brainstorming done by people on the team for likelihood and consequences, you fill out the risk matrix. And remember those item high risk or extreme high risk, 3 quadrant at the top right will require the risk response plan. So risk strategy, the risk is known. Is it controllable or not controllable? If it is controllable, you deal with the causes, that's the prevention. If it is not controllable, you need to deal with the effect using your contingency plan. Now, this is very important. Timeline for a non-risk. Project started from the left before any risk becomes material. You are focusing on risk prevention and planning and developing a contingency plan. A risk has come through, so there is a trigger event which manifested the risk. And after the risk has manifested, your focus should be on the risk recovery by using the contingency plan and ensure that the project comes to completion without getting impacted by the risk which has come through. Another way to look at it is activity risk management. On the y-axis, the likelihood, and x-axis, the impact or the loss. The top right quadrant, where both are very high, likelihood and the impact. Like quadrant 2, you need to transfer the risk, and this is where organization take insurance. So for example, if you are running an airline, each of the aircraft is insured for $2 billion. And this is done by Lloyd's of London, which will have many different insurance companies where it is divided up in terms of reducing the risk and sharing the risk. If you are having either in quadrant 4 or quadrant 3, you have to have a risk mitigation by having processes defined, training done, having redundancy, etc. And when both likelihood and the impact is low, you are in the quadrant 1, you accept the risk. In other words, you put aside a reserve amount to take care of the risk. Another one to think about in quadrant 2 is the vaccine development, which few organizations around the world undertake because it's highly risky. Not many things will come to success. So this is where they only take limited organizations to work on those items, and they of course have taken insurance as well. So things fail, their money is partly recovered. I want to share with you one YouTube coming up on the mission to the Mars probe by Jet Propulsion Lab, part of the NASA program. And this is where they were developing a high innovation company to balance the innovation and risk management. Hired a person by name Gentry Lee, who was a senior systems engineer. He became the chief risk officer, And originally, the project was with the cost of $600 million for Mars Biological Explorer landing mission. First of a kind, 600 million. So remember that money. 4 stages of Mars Biological Exploration Mission: launch, cruise, entry, descent, landing, and surface operations. Launch and cruise were relatively known, but the biggest unknown was entry, descent, and landing, whether the probe will survive the Martian environment and will it land properly so that it could be effective in collective sample and do the analysis while on the surface of the Mars. They identified types of risk in 3 different areas: business as usual risks, launch and cruise; unknown risk during entry, descent, and landing stage; and then there were development risk, engineering entering the new territory, requiring new technologies. They created the risk matrix. They call it hit shield. The risk numbers, the radar they've created. The 2 items shown in red, item 3 and 5, they were the highest one with a multiplier of 12. That means they were using 5 by 5 metrics, not 3 by 3 we saw, because here you are talking about huge amount of money. So 2 items they were tracking were item number 3 shown in red and item number 5 with the combined risk number of 12. So is the onboard radar to sense the craft was within 15 seconds of hitting the surface, fire the retro rockets to guide the craft from 150 miles to smooth landing at 0 speed in 15 seconds. And biomarker science analyzer instrument, which was centerpiece of the mission, to sample and analyze and send the results back on the Earth. So let's look at the animation of the Mars Science Lab. It's a powerful animation, and this is how the probe was sent. It takes a lot of times to reach the surface of the Mars from the Earth. And let's enjoy the nice presentation on the YouTube. Wonderful example of how to manage the risk on that $600 million project, which became $2 billion by the time it was launched. It was a 2-year project, and they kept managing the risk to ensure that before the probe was sent, there is a likelihood for success of that project. Otherwise, they would have stopped sending that probe and delay this send out for another 2 years. That was the next window there to work with. Okay, back to the final stage of the presentation, and then we'll be ready to take the questions through the chat box. References, specifically Harvard Business Review and MIT Sloan Management Review. There are tremendous articles, and I use about 8 articles in my 10-week course on project management at Northwestern. Currently, we are in the week 7 of a 10-week program. So to wrap it up, project productivity, it's a 4 Ps: planning multiplied by promotion, multiplied by personal touch, multiplied by persistence. So those who are from the electrical engineering, this is circuit in parallel. When one of the 4 item is going down, your overall multiplication will go down as well. So to summarize project management, in India, all higher education institute need to include project management course in their curricula, simply because we are weak in project management at the India scene. We talk a lot, discussion and debate we are good at. When time comes for action, the ground is completely clear. There is nobody there to take any action because they have shifted to next big debate. So execution, focus on execution is extremely important. And this is where, if we inculcate project management discipline in each and every person, no matter what branches they are in, it will serve them well as well as serve India well. Design a project management course by integrating leadership, decision making, time management, teamwork, problem solving, and the risk management. And that's what I have done for the last 15 years academic setting. And leverage project management knowledge to solve society's real problems and help in the nation building. And this is the call for the day, order of the day. Unless we do things by learning the right discipline, the teamwork, problem solving, project management, will not be able to come out ahead in the global arena competing with the rest of the world. And as a part of the National Education Policy 2020 implementation, will require tremendous focus using all the project management techniques, including the risk management, to deploy the NEP 2020 effectively. Your 2 key takeaways from the project management session: we have now concluded 5 out of 6. Next Wednesday, the 10th of May, career development guidance, another very critical, important items coming up, including the valedictorian. The Vice Chancellor, Dr. Onkar Singh, will be there. And time for takeaways and a question. Okay, let's get into the chat box. There's some activity here. Okay, Shreya Pathak question was how to make the rational decision from number of diverse people and how to manage them. Yeah. So first is you built a excellent, highly effective, functionally active team. you made the right decisions in terms of assigning the task and subtasks to the people by asking them about whether they want to volunteer and align them with their strengths. That's the theory of strength we discussed in the teamwork. And once people have started working on it, and they are diverse group of people with different skill sets, that's why they are there to solve the real challenge and the real problem. Look at their output and see whether they are cooperating and collaborating with each other to develop a final solution for the project for which team has been put together. And when you do that, you are making progress, assessing the risk, having constant reviews weekly, and keeping project on track to ensure that you are within budget, you are managing your schedule, we will come in within the schedule, and your performance criteria are getting met. So ultimately, you will deliver outstanding project which the sponsor will be happy with. So that's how you manage the diverse group of people to continue to keep them motivated, have communication paths open, continue to challenge them to find the solution, and if they are blocked, give them resources as needed. Dr. Priyadarshini had VJIT. Apart from financial risk, what other risk can be expected? So it will depend on the nature of the project. To complete the project from beginning to the end, you need to think through what can go wrong while you are on the project, the planning aspect as well as the deployment aspect. And so, for example, currently my team, 3 teams at Northwestern are working on a project on a 2-day conference, professional conference. One team is working on developing a training project for an organization. And third one is working on a knowledge management project where you capture the knowledge from the people, both tacit and explicit. So that third team is working on putting together from the IT department a platform to have web-based collection of knowledge from people, and also working with senior team to ensure that people are willing to put in their knowledge into the knowledge database, knowledge management system, so that when people change the job, that knowledge is resident in the organization. So the number of risks could be whether the database they need, is it developed on time to get it ready? Also, if database is very complicated, people will not work on it and they will shy away from using it. So user friendliness, they have projected X number of people will join and provide input. So if the management is not supportive, not many people will take advantage. So those are the type of risk one need to think through. In the training program, whether you have the right subjects, right subject matter experts, right number of participants, etc. Conference, same way. You invited X number of keynote speakers, other speakers. If they get either delayed or they will not be able to attend, what's your contingency plan, backup plan, etc. Next one, Makwana, Dharmesh, unknown risk in others, many risk involved. Yeah, so you can definitely work on the known risk. Unknown risk is the additional area you need to at least think about. And some unknown risk could be flood, fire, earthquake, etc., tsunami, and those are not predictable. So you do need to have some contingency plan. If any of that thing happens, then you can definitely work on it. In terms of that jet propulsion lab, number 10, number 12, 4, 8 means it was a 5x5 matrix, 1 to 5 for likelihood, 1 to 5 for impact. If it is 10, that means 2 and 5 12 means 4 and 3 or 3 and 4. 4 means 1 to 4 or 2 to 2, and so on and so forth. It's a risk matrix calculated for number of different risks. Okay, Sandeep Kumarji, very good comment. Project management, very much compulsory to lead, and other aspects also. And unfortunately, we still don't have a focus. Project management is only taught in certain institute for certain branches. The rest of them have no idea. And people keep claiming we have a project-based learning and project-based focus in our institute, where people have zero idea about what is project, how to manage project, etc. So no training is given. How to overcome barrier during managing the project. And so that's a journey we decided. Proper planning, proper execution, and proper support by the project team leader, and keep the team motivated to continue to work towards the solution of the problem for which the project was chartered. Okay, so those are the questions we have. If there are any additional comments, questions, feel free to. There's only 1 minute left, so let's try to wrap it up. Back to Vajayji.
Thanks to all. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful session. On behalf of the Veer Madhav Singh Bhandari, Uttarakhand Technical University, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Vohra sir. Sincere thanks to Registrar sir, dignitaries, and faculties. Thanks to Dr. Sandeep Chaudhary sir for your guidance and support. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us. Again, thanks to all of you and good night.
Okay. Thank you, Vajayji. Thank you, Sandeep Kumarji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll see you all on Wednesday for the final session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.